Good morning. Welcome Beneath the Plates. I'm your host, Jared Elrod, aka the Iron Chaplain. Let's get started with today. Okay. I think I'm going to name today's episode because I did an episode, was it yesterday's? It wouldn't have been yesterday's. But 1 or 2 days ago, I did an episode called Do It Scared. And so I think I'm going to name today's episode I Did It Scared and I Threw Up. And the reason I'm going to name it that is because I did it scared and I threw up. Um, okay, in that episode, towards the end, I talked about how, for some reason, I've been struggling with and kind of avoiding the idea of going live with my workouts. And I committed, very reluctantly, in that episode to go live the next day, my workout. And so I did it. And I threw up. Now, I don't know if there's necessarily a connection. Let me tell the story first, and then you guys can kind of decide. But I will go through some insights from that, because, I sat there, I gave some advice, and then I had to kind of follow it and deal with it, and kind of grew from it. So, here we go. So I went live. I was nervous. Well, first off, that night, I didn't sleep well. I went to bed around 7:30, probably 7:40, 7:45. Pretty sure I was asleep by 8 a.m. or by 8 p.m. Got woken up at 11:30. Couldn't go back to sleep. Kind of knew I was up. Got up, used the restroom. Basically started my day about 12 o'clock. And I started off, I was in bed for a little bit, and I was like, you know what, let me get some of my research stuff done, some of my studying done. So I was like, let me grab my phone. As I'm saying, I like to play Minecraft. I ended up actually not listening to commentaries because my thought was like, let me listen to some commentaries for a little bit. And if I make it through like an entire commentary episode or like an hour, if I go through like one of the audiobooks, depending on which commentary I listen to, I'll get up for the day. Well, I ended up listening to worship music instead. And I actually spent like 2.5 hours playing Minecraft on my backbone in bed, which that's so unheard of for me. Like I normally fall asleep within like half an hour of like playing Minecraft on my phone and listening to something. And so I spent like 2 or 2. I can't remember. It was around between like 2 and 2.5 hours. I'm listening to worship, and I am like just kind of praying and kind of like thinking through stuff with, the Iron Chapel, the podcast, just kind of like, thinking through stuff. And if you listen to the episode, I talk about my grandfather. I kind of had like the day before, kind of like a big like epiphany about some stuff. And it was kind of an emotional episode. And so I think that was the day before I recorded that. So I'm kind of just processing all this. So, it's been over 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, I'm clearly not going back to sleep. So I get up. I get to the church about 3. Yeah, because I think I get up around 2 or 2:30. That's why I can't remember if it was 2 or 2.5 hours. I can't remember. Did I get up at 2 or out of bed at 2 or 2:30? I think it was 2:30. Anyways, long story short, get dressed, go to the gas station, all that kind of stuff. Get back to the church. It's like 3 a.m. Do my walking, all that kind of stuff. And then so I go do my workout, and I went live. So I pull out the phone, I pull up TikTok, and I go live, and I'm like really struggling. Like I resort back to kind of like this like kind of fake announcer kind of persona, which is something I kind of accidentally developed over the years. Because when I started doing YouTube, it was still like the height of like, what's up YouTube? Welcome to the channel today. It's your boy, like that kind of style. And I was never quite that dramatic, but had that as an influence, right? Like Logan Paul was super popular, Film Riot was a big influence, and they're very over the top. Yeah, like that was kind of the thing. Like even Peter McKinnon, he'd start off with like, what's up YouTube? Like that was just kind of the energy that back in, the teens and even the early 20s is I think when it started transitioning out of it, was kind of that YouTube thing. And I think the younger ones still kind of do it. And so I started doing all the live streaming stuff. I talked about that in the other episode too, so you can go check out that episode if you want more of the background on my live streaming in the past. And then honestly, if I even go back to high school, I was part of like, I talked in that episode about how I had the internship at Fox News, but even before that, at CART, Center for Advanced Research and Technology, we had our own student live broadcast we did once a week. And I was basically just used to that kind of putting on a show, that kind of persona. And in the last several months, like about 5, maybe 6 months, I've been really working on like, who am I? What is my voice? Like, I don't have to be this, like, if I'm recording, I don't have to be this overly ecstatic, like, hey everyone, welcome, let's get in today, I'm so excited for, why? Why do I have to be like that? So I'm like, who am I naturally? And I know that it kind of varies. With the bipolar, it's not always the same. So I get that there's some variety, and there are days that I am just more excitable, and I'm like, welcome to the episode, yeah, I'm so excited. And there's other days I'm like, hey guys, what's up? Let's talk about something, right? So I get that there's variety, but like, who am I as a voice? And I've honed that in pretty well with preaching, because there is a certain amount of gusto, right? Like, I'm speaking to a live audience, to a room. There's a certain amount of energy that has to be projected. So it's not like it's a fake thing. It's presenting, right? But I'm like, okay, so obviously I don't have to do that when I'm doing my other stuff, because I could just sit back and I got a microphone. I can just put the microphone right here by my face, right by my mouth. And I could talk slower, and I could talk quiet. And, it would compensate. And if that was, so I'm like, who am I? What's my voice? And this is something my buddy Doug and I have been talking about kind of since like June, July. He stepped out from his job and started a Substack and started writing and is gaining supporters. And then about the time I had posted something that accidentally went viral. And of course, with it going viral, there's like thousands of comments, and a lot of them weren't nice. And it's even worse when it's not something you were trying to go viral and not a subject you'd necessarily want. It was it was on circumcision. I made one little circumcision joke. I didn't realize there was such a anti-circumcision party. And it turned into like this whole thing, right? I was like, oh, this is weird. This is kind of why I don't want to be producing content, because the backlash and the whatever. So I've really been focusing on who am I, what's my voice? I feel like I've gotten a lot better with like kind of that authentic, whatever voice. Hold on, I need to take a quick drink. The gym vlogs, I feel like I've been closer. But even there, some of that is like tamped down. So if the other is like, what's up, YouTube? This one's a little bit more of like, I'm in the gym, there's other people. I try to keep it down a little bit, be a little more mild. I can't be like, well, I could, but I feel like I can't be like overly whatever. So with all that said, I've really been working on that. I feel like I'm getting there, doing a pretty good job. Well, then I pull out my phone, I set that up, I start recording on the camera. I'm like, hey guys, it's the episode, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm gonna go live on TikTok. So I told the podcast I would. That's you guys. And so I go live, and I'm trying to teach, and I feel it's like very uncomfortable. I feel like it's jerky. I feel like I'm falling back into this kind of, and it's, editing it back, it wasn't that noticeable. So it's not like it would have been like you guys would have been like, oh yeah, we could totally see the difference. Like it was very slight to where it wasn't even something I really noticed while editing if I wasn't looking for it. But I could feel it in the moment, and I like kind of choked up, and I don't think I literally choked up because of that, but I was uncomfortable. I'm trying to do the thing. And I know part of it too is I just have to learn a new communication method, because, I've been preaching for half my life. I understand that pretty well. Teaching, same thing. Even doing the video stuff. About the same amount of time as I've been preaching, because I was the media director. So I technically started preaching first, but then I wasn't preaching that, like I didn't have like a regular preaching schedule, but I was doing video stuff all the time. So though I technically started preaching first, I started doing video stuff on a consistent basis even before that. And so I'm like, okay, this is new, because this idea of, first off, it's supposed to be more casual, and I'm used to like going in more detail. I'm like, so this is a little more of a casual conversation, because the idea with the Iron Chapel is I want it to be as if someone asked me to like mentor them and disciple them and we did it at the gym. Like, hey, can you disciple me? Kind of teach me the Bible and disciple me in life. And can we do it like, can we, go to the gym, do it in the format of like going to the gym before, I go to work. And so I'm trying to, one, make it less presenter-y and more casual conversation, which I think having the live will help once I start, getting questions and comments and stuff I can really respond to, but I'm gonna have to build up that audience. I don't have a live stream audience. And then on top of that, I'm gonna have to kind of work on like the whole handoff between I'm lifting weights and I'm talking. And at first it was very robotic and very stiff, like, okay, I'm gonna lift these weights now. Here's what I'm gonna lift. Okay, now I'm lifting them. Okay, I just finished lifting them. Now let me take a second, let me look at my notes and let me talk about the Bible stuff for a second. And I'm sitting there like mentally like, this is not working. Like, this is way too robotic. And it's funny because in the pilot episode, so this was recording episode 1. In episode 0, I talked about like, hey, I want this is kind of like my episode 1 of Wine Library TV. Gary Vee started and he did it for like 1,000 episodes. I want to do this for like 10 years or more and go through the entire Bible. And I thought it was interesting because just like you watch episode 1 and he's like, hey guys, welcome to the show. We think we got something here pretty special. And, we're going to be doing the show. We're going to be talking about these wines. And you skip to like episode like 300 and he's like, welcome to the show. It's Gary Vee, a.k.a. or welcome to, Wine Library TV, a.k.a. The Thunder Show. I'm your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And he's like developed this like over-the-top crazy persona. There's one more example of, the early YouTube personas I was talking about. So with that said, I'm like, yeah, in the same way that he took time to develop kind of that persona and the show format and really get into it. He's, kind of developed a bit of a set and stuff. Like in the beginning, he was just sitting there and he ended up getting more props and different things. I was like, I'll have to do the same thing. And this is going to be one of those things. It's like, I have to develop how I'm going to and I have to keep telling myself, like, you're not teaching a class. You're talking to a person, a singular person. It'd be funny if I won't, because I actually have like a, like I said with the live stream and stuff, I'll have actual people to talk to. But it'd be funny if I almost did like an Ernest thing. How he's always talking to Vern. Like, I don't know who Vern was, but hey Vern, what's up Vern? Right? He's always talking to Vern in all of his like commercials and his thing. Like, it'd be funny to do something like that. Like, I'm gonna develop a persona, an individual persona of a person that I am mentoring. I won't do that, but that'd be funny. So I'm gonna have to really work on this. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, this isn't working. And I'm like, now I'm live. I'm recording the video, but I'm also live. And I'm like, I'm struggling. Like, this isn't good. Like, it's not going very well. And I'm like, well, I'm just gonna keep going because I'm live. What am I gonna do, And I'm trying to talk and I get like this like little tickle in my throat. And so I'm kind of coughing a little bit. I can't get it to go away. And so I'm like drinking water. I'm trying to like, in between sets, I'm sitting there with notes. It's like super clunky. I'm trying to go through it. And I'm like, oh, this isn't really working very well. And I don't know what I'm going to do. And I end up like, I can't talk. Like I'm trying to talk and I'm like, it's causing me to cough. Well, then the cough starts to like trigger my gag reflex. So then I'm like, all right, I can't talk right now. I'm going to have to, let me just do this set because like I'm choking, I'm drinking water, it's not helping. Let me just do this set. And then I'll get this figured out and then I'll. So I start to do the set and I can't even breathe because if I'm breathing, it's causing me a cough and the coughing is triggering this gag reflex. And I'm like, I'm about to just throw up all over my office on freaking live TikTok. So I'm like, what do I do? I was like, I have to run to the bathroom and throw up or I'm going to throw up in my office. Like already, I think this is all going through my brain like at light speed. I'm like, already I don't even know if I have enough time to get to the bathroom. And I don't know, maybe because of the years of training of like not going to the bathroom with a microphone. So I take my microphone, I set it on the my bookshelf, and for whatever reason, the paranoia of like not wanting to leave like the live stream on while I'm in the other room throwing up, even though like they're not gonna be able to hear me. I can't say anything because I'm literally holding my mouth shut, trying to like hold down from like throwing up, right? I should have put a warning at the beginning of this episode that I'm gonna say the word throw up a lot. So I walk up, and thankfully, I just immediately remembered how to turn off a live stream, because it's not the easiest to turn off a live stream in TikTok. And like over the summer, I went live a couple times, and it took me forever to like, well, how do I turn this off? Da da da. And so thank God I had already gone through that over the summer, and even I did like a quick, because I needed to update the name of the live stream, and I didn't know how to do it other than to like, it keeps the same name as your last live stream from the gaming setup. So all I really knew how to do was like go into the gaming setup, change the name, go live, cancel the live, go back into the regular mobile setup. Again, this is how like inexperienced I am with like the current state of live streaming. And so I had done that, and so thank God I did that, because that reminded me like how to turn it off easily. And so I walk over the phone. Again, my mouth is like like holding my mouth shut, right? Like trying not to gag, which if I cough, I'm gagging, and if I breathe, I'm coughing. So I'm like holding my breath, holding in like from throwing up. Very quickly turn off the live stream, walk to the bathroom. At one point, I'm walking through, I'm like, I'm gonna throw up in the kitchen. I'm not gonna make it to the bathroom. I get to the bathroom, and I start throwing up. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, I haven't thrown up in like 6 years. Like, there was a time in Virginia where I was throwing up 4 times a day. I was throwing up, two times a day just before I would go to work. And then half the time I'd come home and throw up after work. Now, there was obviously a lot of stress and stuff going on there. So I'm like, is this the same thing? Am I this freaked out by like I don't feel like it's that big of a deal, but it's like, I was bombing though. Like, and I could tell I was bombing. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? Am I just gonna be like, well, that didn't work? Try again tomorrow? So I'm literally thinking about like what I'm gonna say to you guys. I'm like, well, I went live and, I threw up, and it might have had nothing to do. It could have just been because I was up since, like 11:30, and now it's like 6 o'clock, and my stomach was upset, or it could have been nerves. I don't know. So I'm like, well, that can't be the story. So I'm like, I gotta go back and try again. So I go back in. I'd never stopped recording on the camera. I just put the microphone down. So I pick up the microphone. I'm like, well, that was interesting. So I kind of like talk about it for a second, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm not doing well. It's like I'm falling back into like that whole fake persona. So I talk about it, on the thing for a little bit. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna go live again, and I'm gonna try to just be like more natural. Like I can't be looking at my notes. I'm gonna have to just teach from what I can remember. So I'm gonna have to memorize, like as I study, I'm gonna have to like really overstudy for these things, because I'm not gonna be able to look at notes. Now, and I was like, but I do have to look. As I can say in that, I am about to grab my notes, because I am gonna have to reference this chart. And so what I think I'm gonna do, so this is not me just talking to you guys. So yes, I think that like I'm not teaching, I'm not presenting, I'm talking while working out. So I'm not gonna be able to like be referencing notes. So it is gonna have to be like, the majority of it is gonna have to be off of like, I'm gonna have to overstudy, and this conversation is going to be the outpouring of this study, right? Is the only way I think it's gonna work. So it's gonna be like a massive amount of studying on my part in order to get so fluent in it that it can just overflow. And it's going to be a massive amount of studying, because I'm doing this every day, 5 days a week. In fact, I'm considering doing it every day. So that's going to be interesting. So with that, I'm like, okay, that's a lot. I was like, but there's some things I just can't memorize. Or like, okay, I technically could, but like I would have to spend, like the amount of time like Alex Hormozy spends to do one presentation, he'll spend like months. And I'm like, I have to do this every day. There's only so much time in the day, and I can't memorize everything. And memorization is not a skill of mine. Retaining information is, but not actual memorization, like names and dates and stuff like that. So all I can figure is, I'm like, well, I do have these like giant sticky note pads that I've used for a couple videos. I was like, I guess I could like if I start, I get prepared enough to where I do write down notes, I do take notes, and even though I can't use my notes, I can take the key thing, like things I actually have to read off of or need reference, like names and dates and stuff like that. I guess I could then take my notes and do a condensed version of like presenter notes on these giant sticky pads and just like, it's like this wall here, I was going to put these anime posters back up, but like, I guess I could just use it, keep it blank. And for now, use it to put like these sticky notes. And I guess in the future, I could even put like a giant whiteboard there. And I could come in before the workout, all the key notes I need of like timelines or name or anything specific, I could put up here. And so that way I can just look up and see. And if I eventually go to a multicam setup, I'll have a camera there anyways. So it's basically, it's like I'm looking just slightly above or below the camera. I'm like, so that's one option. The other option is like, I could also put together like PowerPoint with notes and then like have that up on the giant TV. But I kind of like, problem is I now have like 3 things I want on that TV. So I like having the camera plugged in because I can see what's on the camera. It also kind of, I don't have a mirror in the gym, so it's like giving me a mirror because I can now see, now from a slightly different angle, but I can now see my form and stuff. I also want to go live and have the live stream. When I go live, I want to get it set up better. I want to have the live stream up there so I can actually see the comments and interact with people better, which I can do both of those because I can still have, I can still see, once I get that set up, I'll still be able to see myself and I'll just have the overlay of like the comments and stuff. So I can do both of those, but I was like, but then, to also have my notes, the only way to do that is if I was like also presenting those notes as well, which I kind of then need someone else or, so I'm like, we'll figure that out. But worst case scenario, so this is what I've come up with from yesterday's, I won't call it failure, I'm gonna call it success, because not only did I do it, I went back and did it again after failing the first time. So really quick before I give you the takeaways, we'll wrap this episode up because I want to go get ready. I want to start doing these at 6, not these, the live streams, and it's 5:01. And I have a few things I need to do before I can actually go and start, doing my workout. So I need to leave here in a second. I needed some water, sorry. So I'm thinking the few things I can do. I finished fine. I'm talked to the camera a little bit, said I need to focus on being more natural, went live again on TikTok. I ended up doing much better. It was still, some awkwardness, but I did a lot better. And I ended up getting 2 subscribers on TikTok off of doing the live. So, it was a win all around. With that said, the takeaways. Personally, the takeaways, like I said, is just I need to do an abundance of research, which I already knew, but it just really hammers that in. And I have to realize it's a different format. I have to learn a new presentation method, technique, style, whatever. Like I am not teaching or presenting. I am conversating, and it has to just flow fluidly through conversation and not as a formal, I want to present this information. So that's gonna be interesting because like I said, I have to be over-prepared, over-studied, and I'm gonna have to just get used to this new way of talking and teaching. And then also like there are some things I do actually have to look off of notes. So I can just be like, well, yeah, I will occasionally, just have to grab my tablet, my Kindle Scribe. I could throw it on my laptop screen and just be able to look over when I want. Or like I said, I think the most natural might be just to actually use these sticky notes and throw those on there. And I can just go back to Amazon and set a monthly subscription to these giant sticky notes because I will be going through them fast because every day I'll have, anywhere from 2 to as many as 4 up on the wall with just my shorthand of my notes up there. So I'll be like, all right, Amazon, set up this auto subscription. I need a new pad of sticky notes every single month. And people will be like, why do you buy so many giant sticky note pads? I'd be like, well, like, you could do that like with the TV. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to mount another TV in my office. So, well, yeah, we'll see. There we go. I think that's all I have for today. So the takeaways that are more applicable to you and not just me is, like I said, I said do it scared. And so yes, I just did it scared. Like in fact, I had talked myself out of not going live today. And I'm like, no, I need to go live again. So do it scared. I did it. You'll survive. I literally survived needing to throw up on live. I had to like navigate running off camera to not throw up where everyone could see. So if I could do it, you can do it. And then again, give yourself some grace to grow. Like, yes, I hesitate saying this and it sounds arrogant, but like based on the average population, yeah, I'm like a master communicator. It's literally how I've made my living in multiple formats for like the last 25 years. But there's always room to grow and improve. The last 3 years since I've been a senior pastor, I have studied probably communication and presenting more than I did. So I've been here for 3 years now, and I've probably studied it as much as I did the 20-ish, maybe 15 plus years before. And then on top of that, that still doesn't just make me magically be able to adapt to any environment. So I have to learn this new communication style. A few months ago, in fact, I was cleaning out videos on my phone. I came across this one. I got asked to do speak to an orphanage in, I think it was like Afghanistan. I can't remember. And I had to work with a translator. It was the first time I ever did that. So I was doing both online delay and having the delay of letting the translator then translate everything I said. It was very hard, but I did it. And if I did it all the time, I'd get, so next time I do it, it'll be easier because I at least have some experience with it. And if I did it all the time, obviously I would get better at it. Well, in the same way, I'm going to have to learn this new communication style. So the first one I did, episode 0, was a little awkward, but I thought it was awkward because I just wasn't feeling I was going to do the book of Nehemiah, and I just wasn't feeling it. And then I get to this, so I was like, oh, okay, well, no, this is actually, and granted, that was the introduction week. So both of these, I basically did an introduction week twice because I switched books on the next episode. And that is probably going to be the hardest one to do because I do have a lot of information to present. So in the future, I might actually even do a separate introduction video where it's more of a classic vlog style where I can do a normal vlog and the cuts and the different things to do an introduction. And then the next day I go into chapter 1, verse 1. So that's a possibility too, because it's this is a better medium to get all this information and visual stuff through. So we'll see how it goes today. Like I said, do it again, see how it goes. I mean, technically, I was going to say it can't be worse than yesterday. It technically can, but, every day I do it, I'll get a little better. I'll get a little more used to having the live to the point where I'll be like, oh, this is weird to record a video and where I'll have a live audience, or, oh, this is weird to work out. It already is kind of weird. Like when I go work out and I'm not recording, I'm like, oh, it's not the same energy as when I have a camera I'm talking to and an audience I'm talking to. I'm sure it'll get the same way with a live audience, not having a live audience, because I love the Q&A stuff. I wish I could train. That might be a goal for this next year. I wish I could train. I love how Gary Vee does his stuff where he gets up to do a keynote and he'll do 15 to 25 minutes of his backstory, and then he just starts taking questions. I wish I could do more of that. Where, if I typically preach for around an hour, okay, I'm going to preach for 25 to 35 minutes, and then we're going to take questions, and I'm going to just answer questions for the rest of it. I've never been able to train, the church here to do that. I struggle to get the Round Mountain congregation to do that when it's not even a sermon, where we're all sitting around a table, eating food, doing a Bible study. I still have a hard time even getting them to, ask questions and not just sit there and listen to me teach. So there's some training there, but it'd be great to have an online audience because they're going to be much more predispositioned to sit there and type questions and ask questions. So it could be fun. I'll get to a point where I'm like, man, it's hard to even teach when I don't have someone respond. So it could get to that kind of thing too. So you never know. I may get to where right now I'm talking about, oh, it's such a struggle. It's so hard. I might get to the point where it's like, how did I ever teach? Not doing it this way. So, yeah, I think that's all I got. Love you guys. Let's see, today is Christmas Eve for me, not for you guys, but I'm kind of getting ahead on these this week because of, sorry, I got a notification, because of Christmas, and I'm not planning on coming in and doing anything the next couple days. So for me, this is Christmas Eve. I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas. By the time you hear this, it should be a day or two after Christmas. Love you guys. I'll see you in, well, the next episode. Have a blessed day.